Hello and welcome back to Football Index Moneyball with another instalment in the Pick of the Day series. Today we've got a bit of a different pick for you. This is the most expensive pick we've had so far in the series, but there's real excitement around this prospect, and with the way the market's been behaving recently, I wanted to get this one out to you guys before the attractive entry point disappears. We're going to be taking a look at what happened in the past week to give this player a 10% price increase and what this could mean for his future price movements. How he's blazed a trail over the youth international scene for the last 2 summers, leading to a call-up for the international team, a full debut over the September international break at just 18 years of age. How he's keeping some impressive company with his recent individual award, sparking interest from Real Madrid over the summer transfer window, and how his current club recognised the danger of this kind of interest early by inserting a hefty release clause in his first professional contract at 17. As well as the usual price analysis, again with some really attractive comparable player price targets with a potential profit of 165% at the top end, and why this is actually a fairly conservative estimate. Just a reminder, if you do get any value or entertainment from the video and you want to help support the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified when new videos are posted, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, then you can search @IndexMoneyball. So for today's pick, we've gone for Kang-In Lee. He's an 18-year-old attacking midfielder who can also play on the wing or deep in midfield. He's currently playing at Valencia, having spent 8 years in their academy. And if we take a look at his 1 week graph, you can see that he's got a 10% price rise on Wednesday. This correlates with him coming off the bench against Chelsea in the Champions League on Tuesday night, albeit for just the last minute of the game. Now I think this is very interesting because there's a trend recently with youngsters on the index that the potential future earnings of a player are being priced in very quickly as soon as people become aware of them. You can see this with Marlon and Haaland over the week, who both play in non-PB leagues but are eligible for the countries and in European competitions, that their prices have increased dramatically, mainly on the hope that they will eventually get a move to a PB league, causing some media buzz and some further price appreciation. You can also see it with Takefusa Kubo of Real Madrid. He's not played a game for them yet and he's currently out on loan with Real Mallorca, where he's played 40 minutes so far this season with no goals and assists. This is one of the players I'll use later as my target profit analysis, and it's certainly a big factor in the reasoning for buying Kang. Another interesting factor for Kang is that Valencia recently had a change of management. The previous manager, Marcelino, had just come off a good year in which they won the Copa del Rey, which was the first title in a decade, beating Barcelona in the final, and they qualified for the Champions League in 4th place for the 2nd season in a row, after coming 12th the season before. Some reports have suggested that one of the reasons for this was the chairman's refusal to buy other players because he believed that Kang-In Lee and Ferran Torres were ready to play bigger roles this season. Now this could bode well for Kang's price on Football Index, as when he gets his full debut in the league or even in the Champions League, his price is very likely to see a nice rise off the back of it, and if he were to get a couple of goals or assists, this would result in even more rises in my opinion. Even if those were in the Copa del Rey and they weren't eligible for PB, just being on the score sheet and having his name become more recognisable is going to be what's really affecting his price. The same way with Kubo, he's not really done anything to warrant the price increase, it's just that people know who he is now. And with the Copa del Rey, he did play 6 times last season, but he failed to score or assist in any of them. I've jumped over to Kang-In's transfer mark now, and you can see here that Kang-In Lee is currently valued at £18 million, which makes him the 3rd highest valued 18-year-old after Callum Hudson-Odoi and Rodrigo at Real Madrid. He's also already got 1 trophy to his name, that's the Copa del Rey for last season, where he played all 6 games, starting in 5 of them up until the semi-finals, where he was left out of the squad for both legs and for the final. I think this was mainly down to the importance of the trophy to Valencia, having not won a trophy for 10 years. Now, when you're trying to analyse the potential of an 18-year-old, a big part of it is watching them play and getting a feel for their quality. There's some great videos on YouTube with highlights of Kang, and although his stats are impressive, these were what really convinced me personally to take a look at him further and that he could be a special talent. But the main reason for my interest was his youth international career. In the last 2 summers, Kang's represented South Korea in the Toulon tournament and the Under-20 World Cup. For the Toulon tournament in 2018, Kang scored 2 goals in a pretty lacklustre team who exited at the group stages, and his performance in those games were enough to get him a spot in the team of the tournament, which is pretty impressive when you think that he was a 17-year-old playing in an Under-21 tournament for a pretty average team who didn't make the knockout rounds. Then this summer he represented South Korea again at the Under-20 World Cup, where they were beaten finalists. This time Kang provided 2 goals and 4 assists, winning the Golden Ball, which is the tournament's most valuable player. And again, this is very impressive when you consider that he was still only 18, playing in an Under-20 tournament. If you take a look back at the past winners of the Under-20 World Cup Golden Ball, you'll see that although there were some duds, there was actually some really good players who won that award. So Paul Pogba won it, Lionel Messi won it, and Sergio Aguero won it. So success following this kind of award is definitely not guaranteed, but it has turned up some pretty incredible talents in the past. Following the tournament, there was a lot of speculation about Kang for both loan moves and transfers. Real Madrid were heavily linked with Kang, but fortunately for Valencia, they tied him down to a professional contract in the summer of 2018 and put an 80 million release clause in his contract at 17 years old. That's a pretty staggering release clause, but if you look at João Felix this summer, if Kang has a breakout season this year, it certainly wouldn't be enough to stop the big clubs coming in for him, especially with the added commercial value that Asian players can have in today's football market. To finish the video off, we're going to do the usual price target analysis, and for today's analysis I had to use a few different aged options as possible alternatives to purchase, as it's very difficult to find players who are getting into their teams at that age. So for the version of the spreadsheet, I added the player's age and I also put down the career goals and assists per 90 for the 4 alternate options. I decided that Kang was the best option as I felt that he has an immediate advantage over Yari as he plays in a PB league. The same goes for Iataran, but the real factor for the comparison with Iataran is that Kang's nearly half the price. Then for Brahim Diaz, although he's a cheaper option, he's 2 years older and Madrid is going to be a much harder team to break into than Valencia. Then for the low target price, I used Sobolai at RB Salzburg. This is a pretty decent marker as they're the same age and Kang is playing in a bigger team in a PB league. There's been a lot of hype around Sobolai on the index recently and he does look to be a great talent, but I'd say that KangIn Lee's shown more potential so far. Kang can also play further forward, so should hopefully be more involved in goals and assists, and he's also cheaper, which makes him the better option. For the mid-range target, I've gone for Kubo on loan at Mallorca from Real Madrid. Now this is a great comparison in my eyes because these two players are in almost identical situations. Kubo's got the advantage of being loaned out to a weaker team, but he hasn't been playing so far. So I actually think that when he does play, his price is going to increase even further. This is really where I think Kang should be sitting price-wise, and I wouldn't be surprised if in the next 2 months, Kang was to hit the £2 mark. Then for my high target, I used Kai Havertz at Leverkusen. Now Kai's 2 years older and he had a great season last year, but he hasn't started as quickly this year, so his price has actually dropped a little bit. For me, Kang is going to be a pretty long-term hold, possibly for the full 3-year eligibility period for dividends. So using Kai's current price as a 20-year-old is a pretty safe target for where you could hope to see Kang in a couple of years if he can get some regular game time. Then the growth of the market is not being accounted for, so this can be used as a buffer if he doesn't immediately show the kind of talent that Kai has. I decided to leave any dividends out of my calculations for profit on this player, but there's definitely a chance of a transfer saga emerging over the next couple of years which could lead to some media dividends. With the potential price appreciation that he's already showing on this analysis, I don't think it needs to be included, as there's a strong case to buy anyway, and I'd rather just take the dividends as a bonus if they ever do come. So with all those things considered, we've got target price range of 17% for the low, 54% for the mid, and 165% for our high. In this case, the two figures I'm really focused on are the mid and the high, as I feel that Kang could reach Kubo's price very quickly, so I want to try and load up with my purchases before that happens. And then also I've got the long-term goal, which is a very attractive backup option. If he was to take a little bit longer, that's kind of where I'm hoping he's going to get to in the next year or two. That's all we've got for you on today's pick. Again, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment and subscribe. Also, if you know someone else who might like the video, then sharing with them would really help me out. There are links in the description for signing up to Football Index and Football Index Edge if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel for more strategy videos and the other picks of the day. Most picks are long-term holds with depressed prices for some reason or other, so often the picks can still offer the same value, if not better, a few weeks after. And the research methods and reasoning can help if you're new to the index and want to learn to analyse your own players. Thanks for watching, good luck on the index.